What's up guys, it's Bussian here. Today we are looking at an RPM Power Rangers deck profile for Power Rangers action card game. Now, this beautiful, absolutely wonderful looking team card is one of the centerpieces of this deck. But before we get to this and all of the other high-end stuff, let's start with the zero costs. Now, these guys don't really do much, but they do bring the team together, and that's the whole idea. Also, this deck is highly customizable. You can just go ahead and introduce different cards. You want to keep them RPM. You may decide to run more of the one costs. You may decide to run more of the zero costs. But basically, the idea is that these guys are just like training area fodder. You got some of these guys in the training area. You're probably going to use a lot of these guys just to discard them and pay for costs. They are your usual bread and butter, zero cost, deals one damage kind of cards with ever so slightly different judgment levels. So we got 8 of these. Carrying on with Red RPM Ranger, which is the last guy in this slot, we do have 2 more Red RPM Rangers with the zero cost that allows you to, if you win, exchange one RPM card in your training area with another RPM card in your hand. So this can be particularly good with recursion. A lot of the RPM cards that we have on the one cost level, they go to the training area if they win. So you can just carry on sort of looping those cards, ensuring that you always have cards in your training area. One more Red RPM Ranger, just a one-off here, another zero cost. And this one, as long as it's in your hand, during the settlement, you may discard this card to move all cards from your battle area to your training area. This becomes particularly powerful if you've played a Zord, and then you know you can basically net 2 cards into your training area, and of course that will be useful in case you win, and normally when you win you would end up getting those cards in your discard area. So in effect, where the real strength of this deck comes is ensuring that we don't actually end up with too many of our cards in the discard area, and that's how we gain more value. The more cards we end up in the training area, of course, the less cards we actually have to discard from our hand to pay for costs. So this is our zero cost lineup, in total 11 cards, and let's move into the one costs. Still Red Ranger. We have 3 of the Red RPM Ranger, 3 of the Black RPM Ranger, 2 of the yellow, and 2 of the blue. Now these guys, as I just mentioned, if you win with any one of these guys, they go to your training area. But also remember, if they lose, they go to your training area. So whatever happens, these will go to your training area, ensuring that you always have fodder in there to either pay costs or of course boost up your judgment, which of course is also very handy in this particular game. They do come with relatively okay stats, nothing to boast about too much though. They're your very basic fundamental stuff to get into the training area and just use to manipulate some of the cards that you play in the deck. And then finally, if we look at the 2 costs, we have a very similar theme, but these are definitely some of the heavy duty beaters in the deck. They are 2 costs, they deal 2 damage, they have the exact same effect as the 1 cost, so whether if you win, they go to the training area, but also if they lose, as with any other card, they go to your training area. But we see nice stats, particularly towards the top end, L4, 5, and of course we get the max on L6. And then this takes us to the peak of the deck. Of course we have the RPM Power Rangers team card, 6 cost, very heavy price, but remember you're gonna have a lot of cost reduction because you will have cards in your training area. It immediately deals 3 damage. It has 4 max levels. Level 1, 3, 4, and 5 are all max levels, and level 2 is 850, level 4 is 1150. Just absolutely humongous numbers. And if you win, you may move this card to your training area and discard the card battling this. So normally, when they lose, their card will go to the training area, giving them advantage. We take that away with this particular card. Again, I would probably run another one of this if I had one, but I don't. Also, massive shout outs to Derek over at ACG Replays, who built all these decks for me so we can play online. And if you haven't checked his channel out, please do so. Moving on to the Megazords. We run 2 copies of the Valve Max Megazord. Cracking looking card. Beautiful foil. And it's a 5 cost, deals 3 damage. Relatively okay numbers, but again, nothing to boast about. But when you play this card, you may move 1 card from the top of your discard area to your hand for each RPM card in your training area. This is exactly what you can utilize in this game. You can basically reclaim cards from your discard area, which is obviously a huge advantage. You can then just have so many cards in your hand that you can use for cost, that it's basically allowing you to play any cost card in the game. Certainly you won't have any problems playing another Valve Max, you won't have a problem playing the team up card, and you won't have a problem playing the other 2 Megazords we have here in the deck. One of them is Paleomax Megazord and the other one is Zenith Megazord. So Paleomax Megazord has an Infinity Judgment effect. It's a 4 cost 3 damage. Okay judgment levels, but you really want to roll a 5 or a 6, but again, you can boost it up with the cards in your training area. So Infinity Judgment, you may discard 2 cards from your training area to change your opponent's judgment to level 1 instead. You can do this any number of times you want. So even if they have something that allows them to then push it up, you can do this again, discard 2 cards from training area, do it again. And Zenith Megazord, 6 cost, 4 damage, and in the assist phase, RPM cards in your training area give an additional 1+1 assist and +1 damage. So you see, this is where the deck basically comes back on itself, and why we want to see all those cards in the training area is to make these Megazord cards particularly powerful, and the real payoffs for the deck are getting out these cards at the right time, because this game is all about timing it right. So guys, thank you very much for joining me for this deck profile, and I am loving this Power Rangers January. Stay tuned for another deck that's coming out next week, but up until next time, peace.